When President Obama refers to the Saudi Arabia of coal, he's not talking about West Virginia or Wyoming, but his home state of Illinois. Jeff Biggers can trace his roots to the Eagle Creek area, the heart of mining in Illinois for centuries, first for salt and then coal. After he moved away to write stories about other places, Jeff Biggers returned to Eagle Creek to explore the impact of strip mining on his family's homestead. His book, Reckoning at Eagle Creek, The Secret Legacy of Coal in the Heartland, is published by Nation Books, and I'm very pleased that it brings him to our show today. Hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Isn't most of the coal produced in the United States mined in western surface mines, especially in Wyoming's Powder River Basin? When President Obama calls Illinois the Saudi Arabia of coal, is he just expressing pride in his home state?
I think that's a great point. 40% of our coal, in fact, comes from Wyoming and the Powder Basin there. But I think the truth is...
One mine produces more than all of Pennsylvania, if I understand correctly.
Exactly. Even sort of dwarfs the whole juggernaut of Appalachia. But President Obama cut his teeth in the whole coal fields in southern Illinois as a young legislator from Chicago. He came down in 1997, and that's where he heard for the first time this great phrase, the Saudi Arabia of coal, which is really one of the great mythologies we have, of course.
Well, how long has mining been going on in the area?
Well, in fact, coal was discovered in Illinois by the French in the 1600s, and so we go all the way back to the earliest industry. The French brought in 500 African slaves in 1702, and we really haven't looked back. The coal industry in Illinois has gone full blast really up until the 1990s.
It's kind of shocking to think that there was slavery in Illinois, the state of Lincoln.
I think that's really one of the great secrets that I uncovered is that, of course, the coal industry began with slavery in Virginia with the Americans in the 1740s and 50s. In fact, the French philosopher Rochefoucauld, when he came to Thomas Jefferson, he couldn't believe that Jefferson would allow slaves to have harnesses around their necks and their waists dragging, working like human bulldozers and dying like flies. But even worse, it was dragged into Illinois. And in fact, our Constitution in 1818 said, of course, we're a great emancipationist state, but there was one little loophole that said because we got our tax revenues, our biggest tax revenues from the salt industry, which is fueled by the coal industry, they would allow legal slavery in Illinois, and in particular my little holler.
So salt mining and coal mining were pretty much conducted in the same area?
Often it would go hand in hand because in order to get the salt, you had to boil it. And, of course, they deforested the area quite quickly. So be it in West Virginia or the big salt areas of Ohio and Indiana and then eventually Illinois, which became really the major window to the west, you really needed coal and boil that salt to process it.
Do salt and coal develop coincidentally?
Yeah, often as minerals you find the two together throughout the country. And in fact, Thomas Jefferson, when he sent Lewis and Clark west, we forget the fact that they were not just there to discover the Western territories, but to make an inventory of these great mineral resources. And in fact, Captain Lewis said in southern Illinois, oh my God, this is some of the richest outcroppings of both salt and coal in the nation.
Well, wasn't it a starting off point, southern Illinois, for westward expansion?
In fact, Lewis and Clark departed from southern Illinois. And it really was the great window to the west for Thomas Jefferson and eventually the rest of the pioneers in expansion.
How have the people of the area been described by writers over the years?
Probably no other region outside of Appalachia has been so maligned as southern Illinois. Of course, when we think of Illinois, we think of Chicago and Al Capone and corn. We never think about the fact that a third of the state is the coal fields. And part of my research was to find that those of us who grew in this coalfield areas, those who are from the backwoods, this incredible little Shawnee Hills that stretches at the bottom third of the region, have always been written off with these stereotypes as sort of poor hillbillies who don't matter. And I found this kind of criminalization of the rural culture often went hand in hand with the strip mining and basically the abuse of the coal miners.
There was moonshining in the area, wasn't there?
Oh, of course, and moonshining is wonderful. Moonshine was an indicator of two things, that you had great pure springs like in Eagle Creek, we had great pure water, and that you had hardwood forest. And so when the strip mines came in and completely destroyed our creeks and streams, there's no more water in Eagle Creek, a famous place for springs, and destroyed the hardwood forest. And when the last moonshiner disappeared, we really knew the end of the forest had taken place.
But for many years, I am assuming, the coal mining was done in the old-fashioned underground mines. When did strip mining come to the area?
Well, strip mining actually got its birth in Illinois in the 1850s. They brought in horses and scrapers. And just slowly it began to progress. In the 1920s, of course, we had the steam power shovels, the same thing that built the Panama Canal. They dragged to southern Illinois, and we had a horrific massacre about it. But it didn't really get its groove in terms of the industry. Right now, it provides 60% of our coal until really about the 1950s, and that's when strip mining went off on steroids.
What's the history of your family in Eagle Creek?
You know, my family came in as missionaries and as pioneers in the early 1800s, over 200 years ago. And they went into the backwoods for two reasons. They are both looking as part of a woodlands culture to continue what they had brought from Appalachia, and they're also trying to establish some of the earliest historic communities around the salt wells. And so we are very much a part of the development of the salt industry. My grandfather was a coal miner who suffered from black lung disease, who barely survived a cave-in in an explosion. And he often showed me that so much of our incredible woods culture in southern Illinois went hand in hand with this historic development, that there was this secret legacy that I really needed to go back and discover. That was very, very much a part of the crossroads of the American experience.
But outside of the mining, you say when your ancestors wanted coal, they just simply dug on the homestead, dug a little hole?
You know, Eagle Creek was
the coal that close to the surface?
Yeah, it really was. And also everybody had their little sort of, we called gopher mines or dog mines right into the hills. You know, it's one of these hilly areas. Once again, the Wisconsin Glacier didn't get to this part of southern Illinois, and so it's really the bridge between the Appalachian Mountains and the Ozarks. You have this gorgeous shiny hills, 1,100 species of flora and fauna, and you had these wonderful nooks and crannies where you had coal. We had so much coal, Leonard, that my uncle would throw the scrap coal to the pigs, and of course he said that's how you got pork roast.